Okay, it says that I am live right now. I won't be able to hear my own voice for a while before the lag catches up with me, but this is where we are, and honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm just gonna scroll through all of my palettes. Feel free to steal any of these, and I'm just gonna start slapping down colors that feel right. I did have some kind of an idea of snow, but I don't know if today is that day. Let's just see. Okay. I tried something new this time, and I have the YouTube window on a different side. I'm gonna check if this microphone is kind of on top of everything. I'm trying to angle it towards my face somewhat. Just so that it's away from the screen, so that you don't hear just constant tapping, which probably would be not ideal. I can see that on the video the entire screen is tilted, which is a constant problem when I have the cord attached. I'm gonna just remove my Garmin. I don't feel safe keeping it next to my screen. Sorry. Vincent colors are pretty nice. It's weird that I heard Vivi through these headphones and I didn't even notice it happening here. Oh, train. Maybe this. Oh, and today we are not using oil stick, we are using perfect consistency. Yes. Because I think we did Coal Mountains already. Did we? Please, if I have already done perfect consistency, please stop me now before I do more work on this. Okay. So I truly don't know what's happening here, so I'm just gonna scale this down a little bit first, so that I can really quickly just slap down some colors. It's almost like doing thumbnails, but in smaller scale. Or like bigger scale, but on the final painting. So, what am I gonna do with this? 2000. Somebody was asking me earlier on YouTube that how do you know what brush to use? Okay, so today I don't have an idea what I'm doing. Perfect consistency is like a perfect one to start with because it's great for idea generation and working through different ideas quickly. I think the audio is fine, at least to me. If it's not good to you, we had Coal Mountains, but not perfect consistency. Thank you, Selena. It helps so much. I'm gonna put the headphones here further away, so hopefully the sound doesn't loop, but in case I need to do some adjustments, I can do that. I can see it's just the top of my head here, so I don't know if I can angle this downwards a little bit. Is that better? Is that too much? I don't know if in general the camera position is ideal. Maybe I should have it somewhere over here. This could probably be something that I improve this year. Hello, Setsuna. I was just checking our chat on Discord. Yeah. Because sometimes I reply to somebody on Discord and then I forget that like that was a whole conversation happening, and I just forget it. And I just feel terrible about not replying to people, and that does happen, and I'm really sorry about that. Trust me, it's nothing personal. I'm just an absolute disaster of a human being when it comes to that. Sometimes I just do not function like a normal human being. My brain just forgets things. I can hear myself talking in the corner, so maybe that audio is a little bit too loud. If I change these colors, sometimes this can also kind of bring out new ideas, and sometimes it doesn't. I keep forgetting that the canvas is tiny, so the brushstrokes end up being huge. So, to go back to that question that somebody asked about, like, how do I choose which brush to use? I actually have at least 3 different videos on this topic from like different standpoints, which, like, regardless of if you're using my brushes or not, like, I recommend watching. I think the overall advice that I always say that, like, don't use too many brushes when you are trying to learn painting and generate ideas. Like, usually it's way more common that people like overemphasize the importance of like which actual brush to use rather than to learn how to use the brush in the painting, like how to actually direct the brush strokes in a certain direction so that they can get effects that work for their painting and so on. Those end up usually like kind of limiting the expression of people when it comes to painting way more than what process to use. Let's say that, like, in all of my years of teaching and working with other concept artists, never have I ever said that you're not using the right process or you're not using enough process. But 9 times out of 10, when we have to kind of like coordinate some kind of quality issues, it's about using too many process, not too little. But there is an isometric illustration that I have done that is called Pumpkin Lounge, and I've made a video about choosing the right brush with that painting. So if you just look for an isometric painting that is sort of Halloween themed, then that's the video that you are looking for. In it, I talk about the concept of brushstroke profiles and understanding how your brushstroke profile influences the way that your brushstrokes are perceived. I've been lost in writing and job hunting. That does sound like a lot of work. Okay, I'm just gonna leave this as one option, and now I'm just going to completely change the color palette into something else. Yes. Let's go here. The color palettes that are divided on the time of day are really handy when you're trying to do a specific look in your painting. I'm trying to make sure that this is mostly on screen. Alien Space Cat 123 is saying, hello, it's been a while since I've joined one of these. I finally became brave and started sharing my art on Instagram. Thanks for always being so encouraging. That's amazing. I mean, it's better late than never. It's never too late, but it's definitely too late if you never do it. And also, since you have gone through this process of like being afraid of showing your art to others and now showing your art to others, like perhaps you can share your experience to other people in the chat who might still be kind of on the fence about something like that. Since there are so many people who like are looking for the courage to share their work, and I always say to them that like these fears are based on nothing. Like even the worst case scenario, I promise you, people aren't like thinking about you that much that it matters. But I think it would be like fun to or interesting to hear your experiences of this. Like just like what would like even hypothetically be the worst thing that can happen when it comes to showing your art. I think there's something here. I'm just gonna explore it a little bit more. It's been a while since I've like started a live stream with this sort of like absolutely no idea what I'm doing mindset, but at least it's exciting, I guess. Maybe a little bit too exciting. This process always reminds me of that tradition that we used to have here in Finland, that during New Year's you would melt a thin horseshoe on the oven and then pour it into a bucket of cold water, that liquid tin, and then with a lamp you would look at the shadow on the wall, and that shape would kind of like predict what your next year would be like. I don't know if like this is a tradition that is also happening in other countries, but at least as a kid I used to do this, and I thought it was super fun. So I'm basically looking out for like different shapes that could be interesting. And if something talks to me, then I will just like try to explore that idea further. I think the eraser is already the same. I think a gate is a little bit boring, so I'm gonna erase that. I think there's something interesting about this sort of like bulky shape. I don't know exactly what that is. There is this floatiness about this shape language that talks to me, and I'm just going to try to go with it. I think a really big thing about creativity is that it's almost like improv theater, and you only get better at it by just always saying yes. Like your creativity throws you ideas, and your job as an artist is always to just like say, yes, let's go there, let's do that, even if you don't know the full path yet. And that way you start kind of like getting bigger leaps of logic, like in your creative thinking, by just always saying yes to those like craziest ideas, even if you don't know how to do it yet. And especially then, like that's how you grow as an artist. But it's hard to explain just like how scary it can be. I think my current project that I am right now doing this video about designing a Shadow of the Colossus beast, like a completely new one that is not in the game. That whole idea has kind of like started with a sound that I heard when I was running, and it led into this sort of research about a religion, and then coming back to the main themes of this game. And it has been like so many like wild leaps of logic that all of these pieces seem to come together beautifully in the thought process of like generating the idea. And I have just been saying like, yes, like I'm gonna do all of that. I'm here, I'm taking notes, and I am going to do the art for you. But when it comes to the actual like execution of that piece, I am so intimidated. Like maybe it's because I love and respect Fumito Ueda's work as an artist so much that I no way want to kind of like do it disservice by creating this character slash level slash environment design, because in Shadow of the Colossus there are all of those things at once. So I'm just like kind of like pushing myself to do it at this point. I am pretty happy with the sketch. I did the sketch in the membership live stream, because I don't think in these public live streams people would be like okay with me like just basically like idea generating for an hour and then stopping there, because that's not how I'm going to be rendering the final details and everything. Like it's those live streams that they don't have like a satisfying conclusion that like here's the picture, but in the end of that live stream I really did have an idea on what I'm doing, and I felt like super excited about that. I think I'm kind of liking these base colors, so I'm just gonna start making a palette that I can share later. Now, while I still can do the palette before it's like completely edited to overblown saturation. So that's why I'm purposefully color picking these colors that are not the brightest, most saturated versions of themselves, so that there's editing room. And this is how I make all of my palettes. Also, it's really important to have dark colors in your palette, because when you look at the palette, they can seem like those two dark colors that I just added almost like they're the exact same color, but especially when it comes to the lightest values and darkest values, palette can help so much in kind of ironing out that subtle difference between hues. I'm basically creating abstract shapes at this point, so your guess is as good as mine in like where all of this is going, if anywhere. I'm gonna check the chat real quick. I wonder if I can see more of the chat so that I don't see it just at the live stream. Alien Space Cat is continuing. I put 6 pieces up so far, and they've gone largely unnoticed at this point. But people have been very kind. They seem to like it. The worst part is promotion bots. Yes. But I think it's also important that you mention this largely unnoticed part, because I think a lot of artists have this illusion that they need to get good first, that they need to somehow generate or level up their skills to a level when they are ready to make art for public consumption, and somehow magically then people will come and find them because they are so good that of course algorithm will favor them and so on. This is based on this like false assumption that algorithms are somehow like based on like skill and some kind of like ordered fairness, which is just absolutely not true. Like you can be an amazing artist and produce like really high quality work and absolutely be completely unnoticed by the algorithm, like for years and years. Like then that can absolutely happen to anybody. Setsuna is saying, I randomly replied to a Blue Sky thread today for mini painting, and now my notices are blowing up because I shared a pic of an old mini. It's been a while since I've painted, but the reaction is lovely. When I finish my book trilogy, I think picking up the paint process again. I think it could be like fun to... This is something that I would need Setsuna's help with. But I recently started learning Nomad Sculpt, which is this like sculpting program for iPad that is like not that difficult to use compared to ZBrush that I've been using before. Actually, would a blue color be kind of cool? I don't know, I'm gonna try it. First, before I get bogged down in details, I'm just gonna slap this in here. Find like a great dirty version of this color by mixing it. Okay, wow, what is that? the eraser definitely should never go that small, so I'm gonna set up like one marker for myself for that. Okay, let's do a blob like this and then just like bend it and see if I can find the correct version of this. Sorry, sometimes I will be quiet when I'm furiously trying to figure out just what the hell I'm doing here with people watching. Luckily, I just ran, I think, 13k before this live stream, so I am in that kind of like just post-run relaxed state that like I probably am not stressing enough for this situation, or like maybe I'm just relaxed enough to let the idea just kind of take me. There's something there. I don't know quite what it is, but I think it's interesting, this moment when the idea is just kind of like formulating in front of me, and I'm just hoping that it shows up. A little bit afraid that it won't, but at the same time it's always worth it when it does, so some things are just worth the work. I'm just using the texture already in the painting, that it has already been done with the same brush, to just create more texture into this area. So about Nomad Sculpt, I was saying that I saw some videos on YouTube how some people have created things in Nomad Sculpt and then 3D printed them. There's a 3D printing possibility in the library, like pretty much like every library here. So maybe I could do that. I think that could be fun. The only problem I have with Nomad Sculpt is that I like to do a lot of like hard surface modeling, and sculpting is really not for that. I know that some really good 3D sculptors like can do hard surface modeling in all 3D sculpting programs, that this is literally just a skill issue. But is it worth it? I think that's another question that like I can't fully answer at this point. I'm just not there yet in my knowledge on how that program works. Now that I'm just reading from the chat. Now that I think of it, comparing myself to more established artists on Instagram has also been hard, but it's something I'm working to overcome. I think it's very kind of like evolved of you to recognize this in yourself. And I'm just gonna say something controversial maybe that people don't like. But I don't think there is anything wrong in unfollowing people that cause you to feel like jealousy, like just negative feelings of jealousy, because I know that for a lot of young artists, or like it doesn't really matter what age they are, they sometimes can have this sort of like feeling of lethargic depression almost when they see artists from skillful artists that they admire. And it doesn't become something that inspires them and makes them do more work. I'm not saying that this is you, just like in general, like people in the chat, like if anybody is feeling this way, like maybe if your actual goal is to get better at painting, and this is something that you want for your life, then maybe it's just for like this season of your life, it would be like more productive for your end goals to unfollow those artists that cause those negative feelings and check back them later. Like the art is not gonna go away, it's not gonna expire or get old. It's still gonna be there when you feel like you are ready to see it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with just like taking a break if the artist you are following actually makes you feel like not making art. I did this to my Instagram feed at one point, but it wasn't about any specific artist. I just felt like there was like this overall feeling of competition when it came to art itself that I really did not like. And I just purposefully was seeking out artists that look like they are doing the kind of work that is fun for them, that I could look at their work and feel like, oh, that must have been so fun to make. And that like inspired me more. This is what I always say about my own art teachers as well, that like I didn't, or even today, like their art is not something that I look up to in the kind of style that they are doing or the technical skill level that they are at, that I don't look at their art like this is something that I should be going towards at all. But when I see their art, it always inspires me because I can clearly see that they enjoy doing it. And I want that feeling, like not that look, not that style, or even that technique or medium to be part of my everyday artistic practice. But overall, when somebody looks at my work after I get hit by a bus, I want that person who sees like my entire body of work somewhere online to look at it and think that this guy looks like he really enjoyed his art. And maybe I can enjoy my art too. Like that's the kind of impact that I want to have on people. I think it's because like I come from that work experience of like working in concept art where it was always about impressing somebody, and I'm like so done like trying to impress anybody, like even myself. Like I don't care if I don't kind of like keep one-upping my skill level in paintings. Like it doesn't interest me anymore. Like especially with this like AI kind of completely running over the entire art scene, it makes the whole technique part of it just seem kind of frivolous, to be honest. And to me personally, I don't think like that's such a like a terrible thing at all. I think if people start looking at art more about like what the message is and what the art is saying, I think that's only a good thing for me and for the type of art that I am making. I recently started playing No Man's Sky, and this is giving me Ancient Lost Planet vibe. That's worrying, because I started playing Lost Planet recently. I mean, not Lost Planet, but No Man's Sky. I'm currently not playing it, but I was playing it like during December, somewhat. I mean, like, I've been trying to get into No Man's Sky for years, basically, but I think around November was the first time when I felt like maybe I'm like somewhat over the tutorial. I am still in a stage, like, mind you, I've been playing this game for tens of hours now, and I almost feel like I'm in a point where I constantly don't have to look at a tutorial on like where do I get X or Y material that I am supposed to be getting right now. That seems to be like most of the game. And I'm literally the only person on the planet who probably thinks that like the beginning half, like the tutorial sections, like were kind of working better before this like almost 15 years of updates that they have been doing to this game now. But it's just because there's so much to learn now. Of course, I think it's like probably in the long run like much better game now, but the onboarding is it's kind of rough. Mostly I've been playing Persona 5, which is also a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, like in the top 3 games. RPGs is Persona 4. I'm gonna try something crazy because I don't know if it's gonna break it or not. Setsuna is saying, it throws so much at you so fast. I don't even know what I was doing, and suddenly I have settlement with debt and stuff. Yeah, I think my problem is that like I started my No Man's Sky playthrough on a planet that is like completely not suitable for building a base, but I didn't have resources to go anywhere else either. So I have all these expensive, resource-heavy structures built on a place that has these massive flying worms in there that apparently can just break my equipment if they just happen to spawn in the wrong spot. So that's fun. I'm gonna go into drawing guide, edit drawing guide, and then symmetry, and do that symmetry on here, and I'm gonna tilt it. You can use this green tab over here to tilt the symmetry. It doesn't have to be horizontal. And I have this as an assisted layer. I'm just gonna clear it first. This is deceptively addictive. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to get extremely distracted during your painting session. So I'm gonna undo the drawing assist, get rid of the line, and then add a mask to this. And on this mask, I'm going to add like random cracks just by painting with blacks, like random squiggles. So it's still going to be symmetrical, but I'm gonna break it apart unsymmetrically. And then do an additive layer. Do another mask. then just focus on the lower part. Persona 4 is getting a remake, so I probably recommend waiting for that. Out of all the games that I have ever played in my entire life, I can say, unfortunately, that Persona 4 is the only game that has changed me as a person. Maybe it's good that I'm not so easily influenced by a video game, but it is true. I think Persona 5 is kind of continuing the idea that Persona 4 showed, but at this point I feel like Persona 4 did it with more nuance, so that there is this sort of like dark, ugly side to everybody. But I think in 5, it seems like they are framing it as this sort of like illness that obviously needs to be healed because these people are terrible. But in 4, these are not some kind of like bad people. They are completely normal human beings. It's just like everybody has that kind of side to themselves. And they live with this sort of like unsolved issues that arise from that conflict in who they know themselves to be and who they are pretending to be to others. And this might be spoilers, but like it's not something that they are trying to fix, and they are not fixing it in these characters in 4. It's just that like this is part of humanity, and I've never seen that done in game writing and in game design in such a beautifully crafted way. And you get to know like all of your teammates in that game through their like worst moments, like their like worst fears and thoughts about themselves. You know those things first before you know more about those people as friends. So when you're done playing that game and you're putting that game back to your game shelf, like it really feels like you're putting away like a group of your friends in this package, which feels weird. And I've never had that feeling about a video game, and I've never encountered anything that made me feel that same way since. And I think the beauty of Persona 4's writing is that like it's not about text that is written in the game, it's the way that is implemented into the design. Like all of those conversations, they are interesting because they matter in the gameplay. Like all of the connections like improve the gameplay minute-to-minute loop, and that also affects the way that those sort of like conversational life simulation aspects happen in the real world. For some reason I have this pull to like do blue plants. I don't know why. Maybe that's the yes and improv part of this painting. I wonder if I should like pull this camera down somewhere. It's like basically it's just showing the top of my head, but like the cord doesn't reach anywhere. Saying I'm really sorry. I will try to maybe fix that for later. Where am I? Here? Okay. I think the tree doesn't quite reach where it should be reaching. That looks like a more natural shape. I'm also gonna do a back part for that. So this is just the same thing duplicated underneath, and now I'm dragging it down a bit. Warp scaling is also helping me it look less like a copy. I'm adding this glow inside as well, but just placing it in a different way. And lowering the opacity Hey, otters. Thanks. I think it's so mesmerizing to me as well that like sometimes I notice that I'm a little bit too quiet for a stream, but it's hard to keep talking and painting at the same time. It's a skill that I admit I haven't fully learned yet. Not sure if I like those squiggles that much. I was supposed to do this live stream yesterday, but I was so done with battling with this keyboard that I spent way too long like trying to figure it out, like how to finally fix it. And then after switching the keyboard to a much cheaper one, I came to the conclusion that it's not the keyboard at all, because I still couldn't do the exclamation mark even with the cheap keyboard. So then I went into this sort of like completely spiraling madness mode, and I started opening all kinds of like applications and deleting the shortcuts. For example, I disabled all of the shortcuts on Discord. I pretty much deleted all of my internet browser plugins, including the Grammarly plugin. So if I'm making lots of spelling errors, that's why. And finally, I figured out that it's the Huion tablet driver application that had Shift 1 as switch between screens hotkey. And it wasn't easy to even disable that, because it's some kind of like administrator level thing. And of course, like I tried to delete it, but you have to go through several steps to get rid of that stuff. And now, finally, I'm able to shout on the internet, which is honestly all I ever wanted in life. There's something about the gap that feels like slightly unsatisfying to me still. What if there was a door? This is such a Helsinki School of Photography composition trick to do, but I'm not above that. Also, I think art streaming requires less voice, more vibing music to match the work. Okay. Like, full disclosure, I didn't design this music for this specific stream, but this is like generally the music that I am planning to use in the Shadow of the Colossus video. And since I am in that sort of like executing the idea paralysis phase, in the meanwhile, I've had way too much time to gather music that I want to use for the video. So of course I'm not able to cram all of this in the video. So now I just have like tons of this music that I can maybe like also listen to when I'm doing the final rendering of the piece. There's a weird audio output capture that I just noticed that is in the middle, but it's apparently not doing anything. Okay. "4V Akseli sanoo moi." Moi Akselille. It's always weird for me, like when there are Finnish people watching the stream, I always get this, I know that it's just a good thing, and I'm happy, Joni, that you are in here, but whenever I see like Finnish people in the chat, my instant reaction as a Finn is to say like, oh no, they're onto me. They know that I'm here. Like, I've been caught. Like, the jig is up. Like, I had a good run, but now they know. I had to burn it down. This is the kind of thing that like you have to be Finnish to understand. I'm sorry. That's cute. I'm reading a question. Sorry that I'm so close to the microphone. It's the only way that I can see the screen. How can I learn to execute my ideas? I have ideas, a vision of what I want, but I am never able to execute it to my satisfaction. I'm trying to look at the other screen. So that is Kauri Dabal who asked that question. I think that's a great question, but you probably are aware that this is a question that every artist will have always for the rest of their life. The way that you can execute your idea that you have is that you do it the way that you can at this moment. It's not going to look like that thing that you have in your mind, because frankly, and I don't care at what skill level you are, like you could be like way better at drawing and painting than I am, and this would still be true. You will not be able to drag that idea through that process of like putting it down on canvas and like having a picture represent that idea to you. You are making compromises when you are painting. Like, how can I put that idea on canvas so that it is telling the story through composition, through color, through value. All of these things are like actual things that you as an artist like need to be doing. This is not something that your creativity does for you. Like, it can create this illusion that the painting is already like painted in your mind, but it's not really. Like, it's not a 2D piece of canvas that comes to your mind, and it's way too ethereal and intangible. And no matter how well you can paint, you will always have to pull that idea through. Let's say that there's this sort of like small hole that you can reach and grab that idea and pull it through that sort of like tiny piece of hole. And you can pull it to this side, the real world that like actual real people live in, but it's gonna get tattered up in the process. Like some bits and pieces will like fall off, and you will have to get your duct tape and glue them together. And at the end of the day, it is going to look like a little bit of like disheveled mess, but you will get better at duct taping and putting the broken pieces together to make it look more like what it looked like when you were peeking through the hole in your mind's eye and seeing that perfect vision. But you have pulled a thing from there to this real world, and that has value, and that's where most people give up, because they are not willing to compromise at all. And you will get better at like gluing and taping those pieces together, but it's always going to be broken up before you can put it back together. And if you're not willing to live with this like compromise, then you will never get anything done. And if you don't get anything done, you're not also like facing those difficult moments when you are battling with a design choice or learning a new technique on like just how to do this. For example, if I want to do a horse in a difficult perspective or in a difficult pose, I have to learn that. And that is something that I am doing for that idea, so that I can present it to as close as possible to how I see it in my mind to other people. And acknowledging that people have a way of reading images, that it's a language that you need to learn to communicate to others. Because the painting is not just for you. You are already seeing that thing in your imagination. The reason why you're doing a painting is that you are trying to show that world to the rest of us. That's the value of art. But anybody who is like going through that phase, it's not a phase. It's just what art is. And I hope that you are able to kind of like make your peace with it as quickly as possible, so that you can get to work and like show those amazing things that you are seeing. Because we all have ideas. I think you have great ideas, but I also think that everybody else has great ideas as well. There's no such thing as an ideas guy that only needs artists to like show their vision. Like everybody has ideas. Like that's not something that is unique to you. But if you're the kind of person who is actually like doing the work of showing those ideas to the rest of us, that is actually something that is unique about you at that point. Because it's very rare that people are willing to put in the work and kind of like showing this side of themselves through art to others. That takes a lot of courage. And in this stream, we've been talking about that improvisation thing, that like your creativity gives you ideas, and your job as an artist is to just say yes and. Like, I am not going to question it, I am not going to review it before it's done. I'm just going to do the work. Like, you're there basically just to help. Like, you're not as important as the idea is. Most people who hear these ideas, they just say no. They're like, that's not good enough. This doesn't generate views on Instagram, or I can't do this idea. That's how people get ideas, even the ones that are not artists. And that's how those ideas don't get done. That's why we don't see those ideas. I'm just scratching some texture into this door. It might look like I'm not doing anything, but I'm actually doing a hue tweak that I am painting on a mask of, and it's creating these desaturated scratches. I'm merging that down, duplicating the layer, and doing the same thing again with a different direction hue change. Adding a black mask to it. And then again. This time with a little bit more intent, like the door hasn't been opened for decades and it has kind of worn out from the bottom part. Why the white version of Procreate? That is because I tend to lean towards dark colors, and if I go in and put this into dark mode, let's go into preferences and switch to dark. Can you see how much brighter all these colors look to me? But when I put the light mode on, I hope that this doesn't like destroy the video. Now I can see that the dark colors are dark and I need more light. That is just like a direction of how I view values normally. Everybody sees colors differently, and it's really up to you. Like if dark mode doesn't produce too dark paintings for you, by all means, keep it. But if this is a problem that you are having with your art, this is a way to fix it. I wish that there was also an in-between, like gray mode for people that need that. But unfortunately, this like light and dark mode has been turned by the internet into this like cool thing that like cool people use dark mode, which is just kind of like insane. It's a tool like everything else. Like if you need a tool like that to help with a specific problem, then use it maybe. You wouldn't believe how many comments I get like constantly about this light mode thing, that people feel like they need to somehow correct me into using a different mode. It's like, for what reason? Like, just so that I can be part of the group. Maybe not as important as like doing the colors in a way that read. I just got this idea that like, what if the door was a different color? I don't like that, but like maybe I could just have few scratches of this gray version, just to make that color a little bit deeper, because the color is more rich, it's automatically gathering more attention, even if there's not a ton of contrast here. In Photoshop, I use the light gray mode when I'm working for colors, because I think that's the optimal value level for my artwork to be surrounded by, so that I can see the colors properly. Your art should work in both like dark and white surroundings. So if you're consistently feeling like when you're posting to Instagram or Blue Sky and you notice that the surrounding user interface makes your art look like too dark or too bright, then that's a clue on like thinking about what would be the ideal way for you to evaluate the values in your painting. Also, one cool idea that I have learned recently, I haven't heard this from anybody, but if you do a layer in hard mix here, and you put perfect gray there, is that perfect gray? I think it's around here. And then like maybe this is also better if you take the color aspect out of it and just do another layer in saturation. And here you can kind of see that, like, okay, only these parts that are white are actually going above that 50% line. So this is if I was like dividing my entire painting into just black and white. So based on this, I think like this area needs to read as a silhouette a little bit better. So there I need a bit more values. And here, maybe I have some like wiggle room for more contrast. And in the foreground here, also maybe I want to have some accents that are visible. And if you want to take this like very literally, you can also use this to kind of like block in some main elements of your design. So maybe here I want there to be a little bit more silhouette visibility and have this area visible. I'm gonna just put that into very low opacity add. And use this as a guide for myself. I think those elements are maybe good on the tree, so I'm gonna leave them there. Now I can take the sign off. Maybe the cloud could be used as a silhouette for bringing out that other edge here. I think that could add a little bit more contrast there. Mikko, you should make a mini short with that explanation. Yeah. I just can't get excited about making shorts. I mean, like, it's fun to do like editing projects for shorts when I want to learn like some kind of like a editing trick or something that I can use for making videos later. But I really have like kind of like disdain for shorts. I just feel like shorts never make me feel good about my use of time when I'm watching shorts, like just as a YouTube consumer. Maybe it's just a me thing, but like at least when I'm browsing YouTube, I constantly press that like show me less shorts, and I don't think it works because I just keep getting bombarded with them anyway. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I really like the sort of like longer format of YouTube. I also have like huge problems with like my attention span and concentration when I'm not doing a creative task like this, or when I'm not running. Like, I'm very easily distracted, so I just feel like that's even more so like working against me if I expose myself to shorts, because I can so easily fall into this trap of just watching 200 shorts and get nothing done, and like that always makes me feel bad. I feel like the door needs an extra level of mystery somehow. So I'm thinking that, what if it was like boarded up? Like somebody actively tried to prevent people from opening this door by nailing it shut. This is kind of hard to explain, but as a concept artist, it's not as important to explain the way that your world is built that way that it is, but it's more important to ask interesting questions. And it's a harder skill than explaining, because a good question can make half of that world building happen in the person's mind who is experiencing that thing that you are creating. Excuse me, I'm gonna go hide all the shorts I've been watching between longer videos. I mean, if you wanna go and watch shorts while I'm doing this painting, like, I'm not trying to prevent you by all means. If anything, I don't want the pressure of like feeling like I need to finish this quickly so to be entertaining to you. Because I love that you are here, but frankly, I care more about this painting than retention, so I don't want to paint in a way that would compromise that in any way. Also, just because I have attention span issues doesn't mean that everybody has, so please don't inherit my problems as your own. How am I doing on time? Almost 2 hours. I think that's not too bad. I think I could change this music since that doesn't belong to my playlist anymore. Okay. Also, I get that if you feel like you're doing some sort of like high brain energy work, like of course it's like fine to have some kind of like mindless entertainment in between. Like of course that's fine. It's not at all what I'm saying. Whoa, I merged that too much. So I'm gonna use these planks and use them as a shadow. So I'm just gonna invert them first so I can see where I'm dragging them. But I am now in uniform mode dragging them so that I'm gonna make shadows out of these. I'm gonna make sure that it's not alpha locked. Add a small Gaussian blur. And then just use that shadow that is already on the wall, that color, and fill it on a clipping mask. Blob. And that way I have shadows. It just grounds it a little bit more. Do you want to go super green with this? Just like can't decide. I'm so indecisive about this. Maybe even brighter? Yeah. I kind of like the frosty look. I can hear Vivi chewing her new luxury reindeer bone on the other side of the door. She looks so cute when she takes that as a project and starts doing it. It almost never happens during the day because my boyfriend is away. It's just like when everybody is here, when she doesn't have to worry about the pack disbanding or lost members not being found, then she can focus on her own stuff, which is her fancy reindeer bone. I think it's a reindeer antler. At least it looks like one. It has that sort of like crooked edge. I really shouldn't rotate the painting so much, I'm sorry. I know it can be harder to follow. Manal Ahmad, thank you. Velived on the moon. I like your jellyfish. Thank you. Should I add some jellyfish? It kind of looks like that underwater island that I made at one point. So it's so nice to do like non 16 by 9 aspect ratio. For once, I feel like I've been doing so much of those. Kind of happens easily when you're trying to optimize for YouTube. And when you don't have an idea, like you might as well start off with aspect ratio that fits for a thumbnail. I've been wondering this relationship between learning and making content for the internet, that it's much harder to learn new skills when everything that I'm doing is supposed to kind of like lead up to some kind of piece of content that I can somehow turn into like some kind of a product, whether it's like to attract visibility to my artwork or to create some other product or project that is like all going to be seen by people. Like nothing is just work that I do for like practice. This week I downloaded Unreal Engine. It's been years since I've used it the last time. I can still remember some of the workflows. There's also not a lot, but like some things that have changed that like require relearning the same things. It's not that I miss game development. I think sometimes I just have these ideas that like, what if I learned how to make trees like these and borders like these? Could I craft these sort of like scenes in 3D as well? Since I am beginning to have like kind of like a visual language to the types of worlds that I am building. And just knowing how the assets work in 3D, I wouldn't have to do like a whole ton of things to create some kind of an asset library, or even use like something that is like close enough already out there to create environments like these that could be walked around, or at least have like a camera fly through or something. Because there's also like so much creative stuff that you can do with the other aspects, like effects and animation and lighting and all of those things, like creating volumes for post-processing. All of that stuff is like pretty fun creative work as well. I just haven't done it in ages, and something about poking around with those modes again kind of made me want to do it. Like, not necessarily for a game, but there's just this like creative pull in it somehow. I can't explain it better, I'm sorry. I think this is a too small brush, so I'm gonna make a new marker. I'm gonna get rid of this marker. Okay, it's reading a lot better when it's just converted into black and white now, with the saturation layer and hard mix gray layer. Let's see if there are any like lessons that we can learn from this. There could definitely be something in this area. And this diagonal maybe could be a bit more prominent. So I'm just gonna do myself a selection of what I want with the composition. it's either black or white. Like, that's the beauty of this composition trick. I'm just working the color, like trying to find the right tone or tones in this case, because I want it to look like very worn old door. So there's chip paint and just years of sunlight wearing this portion of the surface down. If I was going for a realistic look, I wouldn't use so much saturation in this wood. But I kind of like the more expressive storybook aesthetic that comes with these sort of like a little bit more saturated colors. Again, I've been working on so many like realistic dark things over the years that I think that part of me is like fully done. I've explored that way of making art. It's not something that I am looking to do more of. Is it easy to learn digital drawing? It's easy to learn any application that you can use for digital painting or drawing if you prefer drawing over painting. But drawing is very difficult and painting is very difficult. So both of those skills will be something that you will be learning for the rest of your life if this is something that you want to start doing. You can learn to use Procreate in a basically weekend. I have done a whole art course on Gumroad that goes through every tool that I use in my workflow and show the entire composition process that I use for my paintings as well. And I don't recommend that anybody out there does this, but it would be possible to watch through all of those videos in a weekend. You wouldn't absorb all the information at that pace, but it is possible. Did I just completely delete that at the same time? This is why I shouldn't talk while I'm doing anything. I really like this sort of almost neon look to the colors. But I don't mean to intimidate you. Once you learn the technical aspects, for example, once you learn how to use Procreate, which takes literally a weekend, that stuff is easy to teach in a weekend, then you will get excited about how fun it is to learn art, because it is super fun. And every time you learn something, every time new creative opportunities kind of open up, it's almost like new doors in your mind are flung open, and you realize that now there's all of these things that I can do, and now I can do these things. Every time that you learn something, it kind of exponentially shows other routes that you can go. At this point, I think I can get rid of these. I guess the only distinction that I wanted to make, that learning an application, or like how it works, is not the same as learning art. So once you approach it with that sort of like patience that it requires, then it can be truly rewarding. How can I start painting like you? Like, it's kind of awkward that anybody wants to paint like me, because I'm sure that like once you learn to paint like you do, then surely that will be way more rewarding and fun for you. But when it comes to like art teaching, like in that art course, I have also added like more advanced intermediate level expansion to it that is called Building on Fundamentals. And in that, I take all of the lessons in the Sky course, and then I build more complicated subject matter with nature and architecture and design and multiple different objects with transparency and patterns and all of that fun stuff. And in that, I go through like every tool on like what I'm using and what I'm doing as I go along. If anybody like wants to like just follow it beat by beat, that is possible, but I'm also explaining how to implement and use those techniques in any kinds of paintings. So it's not just paint this one painting. The way that I learned painting is that I went to an art school where I learned to use oils. And all painting is painting. So if you know how to do a painting with oils, like it doesn't really matter what the tool is. Like if it's a digital painting, all of the same rules on how to construct an image still apply. Like there's no other set of rules that you need to somehow learn. It's just that like, here's how these buttons work. By the way, I also have like a completely free tutorial into Procreate that I just did like not that long ago, where I go through all the tools that you need to know how to do a painting. And I highly recommend looking at that if you just want to like understand how the application works. Because there's not that much information, like you shouldn't feel intimidated by all of these things that I'm doing. I'm really just doing the same things over and over. And that's stuff that anybody can do. I think I really should be painting in between these if I want there to be branches that look like they are going inside this canopy. I saw some video mention of a Gothic castle art course. Couldn't find it anywhere. Is it still a work in process or was it limited time thing? Yes, the castle thing, I still haven't edited the footage, and there's so much of it. It's one of those like dark and realistic paintings, so that is going to be a lot of footage for me to edit, and that is a somewhat of a different type of a product that I'm doing, because it's one of those where I am literally explaining almost like every single action that I'm doing whenever I'm doing something like new or like just techniques. Like for me, like also painting that way is quite slow, because I might be doing like the same actions multiple times when I'm like practicing of like what's the best way to explain this technique that I am doing and why am I doing it right now, so that people can benefit in other paintings as well. That is going to take a while, but I have the footage and I am going to start working on it probably after the Shadow of the Colossus video. There is also another like shape language design tutorial that I am doing for members of the channel. So I have like these multiple different video projects that I'm doing, but I am just one person. Like there's no like hidden expensive editor behind the scenes because I can't afford one. So I am literally doing all of this myself. So I'm sorry that things take time, but I am going to need you guys to be a little bit patient with the timeline of these things coming out. I am now in a state with the Shadow of the Colossus thing that like I've done as much planning as I think humanly is needed for the piece, because I have a sketch that I really like. So now it's just about rendering. But that is kind of like a... Not sure if that's going to be a realistic piece or not. But there's a lot of stuff there to do. Interesting stuff. And it's kind of a fun way to experience that game that I love so much. Because Fumito Ueda is no longer working for Sony. There's never going to be another game that he's going to make in that world. It's never gonna have like any DLC or continuation from him. So what I'm doing right now is like the only way that I can experience these things, and I think it's kind of fun. When you're doing concept art, you're kind of like playing the game and the level and using the item or vehicle or clothes that you are designing all the time. So it's a very immersive experience, because you're kind of like putting yourself into that situation in your mind all the time. And you kind of get better at this sort of like imagining the scenarios that are possible with the things that you are designing. Like, not just better in a sense that like you can use that information to do more informed decisions on your design, but it's also more fun when you can like really transport yourself to another place with the way that you are working. Whoa. Okay, we don't want that thick stems. I thought the Gothic castle thing would be an interesting product to do because I've never seen anybody to kind of like explain that kind of like more realistic rendering process in that kind of tutorial way. So I just thought that maybe somebody would want that. I hope that it's useful. It's crazy that I have this whole painting that I put so much time and love and effort into, and I still haven't showed it to anybody except few members have seen it on Discord. And it feels strange and wrong that I'm now just like sitting on an artwork that is just there and not seen by anybody. It's weird. I'm trying to work the silhouettes here whenever the silhouettes are important. And vary them. Like for example, here there's a sharp edge to this cliff, so I want to contrast it with these more organic foliage silhouettes. How am I doing on time? Like maybe I should stop before 3 hours so that people don't watch the duration of this stream and feel scared that it's going on for so long. Besides, I think the visual like impact is there already. Maybe for the next 10 minutes I could just focus on like fun editing stuff. I'm gonna maybe squeeze some layers together so that I have editing headroom in this file to begin with. the silhouette of one of the trees is really bothering me, so I'm going to repurpose this. Don't do this at home, kids. This is cheap, but so am I. Love the Sky Garden and Master Sky Painting ones. Can't wait. I'm glad that you enjoyed those. Especially the Sky Painting course. I think what I have done probably wrong with the marketing of Sky Painting course is that the Sky Painting course is an art course on not just how to use Procreate, but I'm also teaching my entire checklist for composition that I used for all paintings. So while that is not just the practical aspect of how to use Procreate, but it's also all of the art stuff that I use in construction of all of my paintings. But then on more detail level, the building on fundamentals that is included in the same thing, that is more practical application of those rules. And I definitely don't recommend that anybody skip Sky course just because it's more theoretical part of the art course, just because all of that stuff is used in the building on fundamentals. This year, I also want to finally get my landscape course done, which I already started on ages ago, but I had to kind of put it on ice because at halfway point I realized that this is going to be impossible to market, so I need to frame it in a different way, because while the information was there, I just thought that now that I know more about what people want from these kinds of products, it has to be taken into consideration on how it's positioned as an educational material. So as an art teacher, you're in this sort of weird in-between phase that it's very easy to know that what people want, but as a teacher, you also know what they need. So you have to do it in a way that they get what they want, but you give yourself an opening, a way to sneak in the thing that they need, so that even if it's like more than that they asked for, if it's done with good intentions and they come out of the experience as better artists and more skilled and equipped with knowledge on like how to get their own visions done, then I think the end justifies the means. The way that I look at this painting, I feel like it's some kind of a shrine that is holding some kind of a valuable secret. But people have like such reverence to it that they have left the whole place to just like be overgrown by nature, like it shouldn't be messed with. The thing I love about concept art is that like so many of these stories like come together so effortlessly if you just let the painting do the talking and kind of step away and let the story happen rather than involve yourself in some kind of like active way. Now I copied the canvas and I'm pasting it. Now the canvas is pasted on a normal blend mode. I'm taking away all of the elements that are not in light. I don't want to glow that blue, so I'm going into blue channel and then just like taking all of the blue away. I'm gonna save that for later use and put this on screen blend mode. Duplicate that and let that glow a bit. I'm gonna duplicate that because I like that effect. I'm gonna do it in a more wider range type of way on a separate layer. Put it on a very low opacity, just 25. Now on this layer, I'm going to duplicate this once more. And set it as a lighten layer. Now it's not going to add that kind of like blurry effect. It's just going to eat away some of the contrast in areas where I want to have that sort of light leak saturation highlight element. And even though it's just this like one area that is affected, it's giving this entire painting this sort of like more intense feeling to the light. There's one cloud mass that I think should continue a little bit here, just to make the silhouettes read a bit better. I'm also gonna put that gradient in front of the clouds, just to blend them in a little bit more. One thing that is absolutely horrible to notice about yourself, like when I'm editing myself, like doing color editing in a painting, I just keep saying this, like a little bit this and a little bit that constantly, because that is what editing is for painting. You just do tiny tweaks to push it towards towards all the elements, towards their maximum visual potential. And it's hard to avoid that type of language, but I try to edit away as much of it as possible. But it can be pretty terrifying experience when you have like 9 hours of video footage to edit through. Sounds a lot like parenting. Well, teaching is, kind of that. You also have to have that sort of like empathy, that you understand why people want to do things in a certain way, and you have to be able to explain them in a way where you understand the feeling and you give that sense that like you're not just trying to take away their toys. Like you also need to explain that you understand the desire to do it something in a certain way that could be like non-optimal for the future of their painting or painting skill development. But if you can't express it in a way that people understand that like you really have their best interest in mind, I'm not purposefully trying to hinder anyone's like joy of art, that there wouldn't be a reason why I make them do something that is not the most fun thing ever. Like, my purpose here is not to take your joy of painting away from you, quite the opposite. But there are some things that the value of which is apparent only after a certain level of experience, and then you're thankful for yourself for doing things in a certain way. Pretty much every conversation that I've had with anybody about the use of smudge tool is like that. So like, I understand why it's fun, but I also need to explain what are the dangers of overusing it. I would be a terrible parent, by the way. Like, I don't have kids, so I'm not speaking from experience. But here, can you see how this gradient is making these accent colors pop out a little bit more? So that's why I'm using that word all the time. And then when I go to these hay elements over here, I duplicate them, set them into additive blend mode. It's a clipping mask. Crank down the curves. And then at low opacity, I'm painting out those tips that I want to highlight. It's just making them stand out a tiny bit more. This is all that color editing is, and it's the best thing ever. Like, I could do this endlessly. but I'm not going to, because that wouldn't be fair to you. I should thank everybody for being here. Hello, the crew. Welcome to the end of this live stream. I'm gonna check the chat real quick and just let this thing be here. It's a lot more vibrant than I was thinking of doing, but maybe that's because of the Shadow of the Colossus thing. It's going to be relatively monochromatic. So I guess like this is like the counterbalance that I was needing at this moment. I don't hate it. I think it's kind of nice. But this is exactly the kind of environment that I think would be so cool to like make in 3D, so that I could have that sort of like actual feeling of like 3D space in it. Thank you, Setsuna. Thank you everybody for joining. And if you have any ideas for future videos that you would like me to make, please let me know here in the chat or in the comments of this video. I read all of those, even though I don't have time to reply to all of them. And I've already set up poll in the membership, and they already know another video that is coming, but I'm not gonna like do spoilers here. But it's also like a fun, practical thing that people that are into fantasy stuff will be interested in. Okay, thanks for joining this stream. Go paint something, go write something creative, do something creative today or tomorrow if you're going to sleep. That's all. I'm very awkward at ending this, so I'm just gonna go now. Bye.